Well, hey there, and welcome to this episode of Living Greatly with Anna McKinley. And look, in the last episode, we talked about perfectionism and what I fondly call death by perfectionism, not death of us, death of our dreams. So, in this episode, I'd like to talk with you about a related concept called ready, fire, aim. Now, if you're an entrepreneur or a business strategist or in that kind of field, you'll have come across this phrase before. If you're not, you may be going, hold on a second, isn't it ready, aim, fire? And well, that's exactly the debate. So, ready, fire, aim. There are actually a number of books written on this concept. In fact, there's several books with the title Ready, Fire, Aim, and all with a slightly different take on this concept. And the phrase has taken on a few different meanings for different people. It's a phrase that's often used by businesses and by entrepreneurs and can mean anything from putting a product on the market before it's really quite ready, or taking immediate action in response to some external event or what a competitor's doing before really thinking everything through, often acting reactively rather than proactively. Or it can mean committing to something before you have all of the details figured out. And there's other definitions people give to it as well. But look, broadly speaking, there are two perspectives on this ready, fire, aim concept. And I'm going to go through them. But before I do, I want to be really clear. The reason I'm sharing this with you is because applied properly, or applied well, this concept can massively help you massively fast forward your goals, not just in a business context, but whatever goals you have. So I want to share with you some thoughts around that and some ideas around that today. All right. So broadly speaking, there are two perspectives or schools of thought on ready, fire, aim. There's the school of action. Ready, fire, aim gets us into action, beats paralysis by analysis, and makes sure we get stuff done. And then there's the school of preparation. Ready, fire, aim can lead to actions that are poorly planned, that are firing in the wrong direction, and give the potential for wasting resources, wasting time, wasting effort, possibly even damaging our reputation and our brand. So, well, which one is it? Which school's right? In reality, like with all of these things, a bit of both. And as I said before, I want to be really clear here. Often ready, fire, aim is used specifically in a business context in relation to new product launches, around launching a product before all of the details and the logistics and design, production, supply logistics have been locked in place. And that's done on the basis of we'll get it out there and we'll figure out these details post-launch, which can work in the sense of getting things to market, but obviously also has some risks associated. And there have been some spectacular stuff-ups in the name of ready, fire, aim in that kind of context. But right here, I'm actually taking a broader perspective with you. We're looking at this idea in relation to goal achievement in general, whether it's committing to launch a new product in your business, whether it's about a personal goal you might have, maybe a goal to quit your job and actually start your own business on the side, or to complete a sporting event, like say a marathon, or maybe a goal to offer a new course or training program, or whatever it might be. When it comes to goal achievement, ready, fire, aim is actually a really effective strategy for overcoming inertia and getting into action to create commitment and momentum so that you actually increase the chances of achieving your goal. But at the same time, we know that failing to plan is planning to fail. So let's look at it from both angles. Fundamentally, ready, fire, aim is about taking action to commit to your goal or your course of action before you've got all of the details figured out, and actually getting started before you have all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And there are actually a number of advantages to doing this. You know, it sounds risky, right? But here are some of the advantages. Well, number one, it creates commitment and gets us into action, as I said before. And by doing that, the commitment galvanizes the will, the support, and the resources to actually get moving. We focus on it. We're forced to ask for help when we might not otherwise do so. It gets us taking action. And an interesting thing happens when we commit like that, when we go all in. It shifts our focus and our energy around the goal. And this affects, it sort of leaks out to the other people around us as well, often creating opportunities and support and help that we simply would not have been able to plan for if we left it to ourselves, right? Another thing is that in our fast changing world, a lot of the information that we need to actually um, you know, do the thing well won't be available to us until we make a start, until we fire. It's by doing that, by starting to take action, that we actually get real world feedback and information. We learn what works and what doesn't work. And so we're able to make adjustments as we go to enable us to improve the ultimate result, right? And this also gives us the opportunity to develop the skills that we need and the systems that we need in a real world context so they're more fit for purpose, right? Another thing to remember is, let's face it, in many situations, if we wait until we have everything figured out, we often never get started at all. Ready, Fire, Aim helps us to avoid that perfectionist tendency to keep putting things off because it's not perfect yet. And if we do that, of course, we never get it done, because perfection is not a destination, it's a direction. We never really get there. So this approach does require us to let go of the belief that everything has to be done right and in the correct order. To employ Ready, Fire, Aim, we have to let go of the desire for it to be just right or to be perfect, and instead adopt a done beats perfect approach, right? Getting it done is what we focus on, combined with a willingness to monitor, to welcome the feedback, both the bad feedback as well as the good feedback, so that we can continually improve as we go, right? The thing is, I don't know about you, but certainly for me, I've gotten used to it now, but boy, when I first got started with this, that felt really uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable, particularly if you're the kind of person who has high standards or perfectionist tendencies, right? Because we ask ourselves, what if we stuff it up? What will people think if I do something or put something out there that's not excellent or not of a good standard? And yes, as I said before, there's a lot of real examples, some of them shockers, of things having been done poorly or in a rush, purportedly based on the ready, fire, aim notion. Right. So making sure that we do things right and have everything lined up correctly before we fire, before we get started, does sound logical, it sounds responsible, it sounds safe. I mean, surely if we take this kind of approach, we can minimize our risks and increase our chances of success, right? Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? But of course, it's not actually necessarily the case, because in practice, this more conservative approach of getting our aim just right before taking action, it's got its own risks as well. And it has been the death of many fabulous goals and dreams, let's face it. Trying to plan out every single detail before we act inevitably involves a lot of speculation, no matter how much research we do, because the world is predictable and rapidly changing. More so now than ever, right? So no matter how carefully we aim, it's very unlikely that we'll get things perfect out of the box. Nevertheless, a lot of people, especially new business people getting started, new entrepreneurs, because they're often afraid of failing and afraid of the consequences and feeling unsure of that, get stuck in this pattern of trying to do it right. And it's very easy to get into a kind of paralysis by analysis, trying to figure out every single step from start to finish before making the commitment, trying to find the one right path. And actually, there's usually not one single right way to do things. And trying to get all of that lined up before even getting started, before even getting into action. Look, too many times I've seen people put a huge amount of time and energy and resources into trying to plan things out in detail, trying to get the right path locked in, only to find that by the time they actually are ready to go and take action and fire, the window of opportunity has closed, or the resources are no longer there, or the will to act has evaporated, sometimes all three. The difficult truth is that if we wait until we have all of the information that we need, until we're confident that everything is just perfect, well, generally we'll never get started. So which one is it? Fire first or aim first? Well, Actually, it starts with getting ready first. The thing is, if we do the ready piece correctly, then firing before aiming can be a highly effective strategy. But when we don't do the ready part, that's when we fall flat. What's the ready piece? Well, it's about getting clear about the goal and putting our high-level plan in place before doing anything else, so that we know the destination, we're clear about that, and we know broadly the direction we need to go in to get to that destination. So we can make sure when we fire, when we take action, that we do that once and only once we know that the goal is achievable based on the planning that we've done to date, right? We get the goal in place, we get the plan in place, we do enough pre-work so that we know it can be done and that we can figure the rest out. And then, we can actually make sure that we're firing in a way that is moving us towards the goal. Once we get to that point of readiness, that's the time to fire, right? And then we can do the course corrections as we go. Look, a beautiful example of this approach, which is often not talked about in ready, fire, aim terms, but it's an example that I love. It's the Apollo 11 manned mission to the moon. And if you think about it, this was something that was announced. Action was taken by President Kennedy to announce this commitment very, very publicly in the middle of the Cold War. It was a really high-risk game. He announced that in the early 60s. By the time this decade is out, we'll put a man on the moon and bring him back safely. Well, at the time that he made that announcement, enough work had been done to be confident that the goal could be achieved. But the detailed how was by no means figured out yet, and there was still a lot to work out. A lot of analysis, a lot of science to be done, a lot of strategizing to be done. There's so much that hadn't yet been figured out. But the commitment, the public commitment in 1962 by President Kennedy, marshaled the resources, the inspiration, and the national will to actually get it done, to figure it out and get it done, to keep making the adjustments and achieve the goal. And in my industry, coaching and training, another example of very common practice in preparing courses, you might not know this, I'm letting a trade secret out of the bag, but often we'll plan a course, we'll plan the outline of the course based on what we see in the market and on market research. We'll have the outline, the broad outline of the content, and complete development of the first few pieces, the first couple of modules, for example. And that's when you start marketing and launching. Many people get stuck thinking, I've got to develop the whole thing. I've got to get the whole product ready to go. But no, actually firing and starting to market and launch before the whole thing is completed actually tends to lead to better results. Why? Well, first, it enables the coach, the trainer, to build momentum, to actually enroll people into the course, to make sure it actually happens. But importantly, and almost more importantly, it tends to lead to a better experience and a better quality product for the course participants. Why? Because the coach is able to gain and incorporate feedback and information from the first few modules into the remainder of the program, thereby giving participants a product and delivery that better meets their real world needs, right? So again, that's employing the ready, fire, aim principle to get a better result. What does this mean for you as an individual with life goals you want to achieve? Well, ready, fire, aim in that context boils down to the very simple and powerful element of commitment. Do enough pre-planning to know your goal, even if it's a big, hairy, audacious goal, to know that it is achievable. That's the ready part. And then once you know that the goal is achievable, you know it 100%, then fire by taking some kind of action that creates the commitment. Pay for your entry into that sporting event that you'll take part in, the marathon or whatever it is. Get your first client in that program you've partially but not fully developed. Announce the date on which you'll launch your new product, your book, or your service. Tell your friends when you're going to resign from that job so you can transition into the dream business that you've been talking about for years, whatever it is. Then, once you've made that commitment, start actually taking action taking action, getting the feedback, and adjusting your aim as you go. By collecting data and feedback, you'll see what's working and what's not, and you'll be able to make the course corrections so that you actually meet and achieve the goal you set for yourself. So there you have it. Ready, fire, aim. Get ready first before firing, but then fire, make the commitment, make the adjustments as you go so that you can actually get it done and create the results and the life that you truly want. So I hope that served you. Thank you for joining me again, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.